Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If I was to say to you all, Dolski Mlin, what do these two words have in relation to the Wheel of Time? Well, Dolski Mlin is a location in the Czech Republic which was used to film parts of the show back in 2019. And to get even more specific than that, it is believed that the scenes that were filmed there take place just after the events of Shadar Logoth and are centered on Egwene and Perrin's escape from there and their subsequent meeting with Elias and the wolves for the first time. Now, this news comes courtesy of WhatSeries.com once again, and so we have to give thanks to them for keeping What Wednesdays alive this week. Now, moving forward in the video, we are going to be heading into spoiler territory, albeit slight spoilers, as I am of course going to be showing you set photos from the location, as well as going into a few of the chapters from within the Eye of the World. You've been forewarned. But before we do, if you're new to the channel, or perhaps you haven't subscribed yet, which I see over 60% of you all that watch my videos aren't, how about you take a little bit of time out of this video and go down there and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now, don't worry, I'll wait for you while you do this.
I was wrong about Egwene!
Oh, are you done? Perfect. Let's move on. During Block 1 of filming back in the months between October and November 2019, Dolski Mlin was filmed at for several days, and during this time, on one particular day, we know that the wolf dogs were present on set. So this naturally led us all to speculate that the scenes were being filmed there were of course centered around Perrin and Egwene. And for such a long time, this is where the trail of information on these scenes ended. Now, fast forward to present day in 2021, and What Series unearthed some photos from a would-be passerby who happened to stumble upon the set, which now lends more evidence to the theory that there of course were in fact scenes taking place between Egwene and Perrin. Now, admittedly, most of the photos which were taken from this passerby don't exactly lend us any more information as to what was exactly being filmed there, but they do of course give us a new look at the type of sets that we can expect to see when it comes to the show. In the most interesting photos, we can see various camera and lighting equipment which was used to film the scenes, and it gives us a glimpse into the time of days that they were perhaps filming in. And on top of this, we do get a few brief glimpses at some of the props and set pieces that were currently on the set. For example, we can see a small fire pit, a pile of gear which includes blankets and two rolled up leather bundles which I personally believe are saddles for horse riding, and a pile of pine branches which Egwene and Perrin could perhaps use as a makeshift blanket to cover themselves away from the elements at night, or perhaps as a makeshift padding for the ground so they're not waking up with aches and pains that they didn't perhaps have from the night before. And let me tell you from experience, you do not want to be sitting on a solid wood ground if you're in a house, let alone out in the wilderness. It is painful. Now, in the article, What Series weren't too sure at just what some of the gear was in the photo, and at first glance I initially believed it to be of a quiver. But when I took a closer look at the photo, I've surmised that it is in fact two separate harnesses for horse riding. And if we zoom in on the gear in the photo, you will notice that there's two pieces. One is black, one is brown. And they are identical in their design and length, with the warm brown piece of gear showing the saddle's design much more clearly, and of course there's the blanket on top from which they can use to keep themselves warm at night. Moving away from the two saddles, just to the right of them, we see what appears to be a belt and then the beginnings of a handle. Now, I can speculate two possible outcomes for what this is. To me, the first most plausible one is that it is in fact just the pommel of Perrin's half moon axe, and obviously the striking section of it is covered underneath the blankets and harnesses. But the other idea that it could be is it is Elias's long knife. Now this of course takes us off into another direction with what these scenes could potentially be showing us, which would introduce the right cloaks to the show. So that is something to keep in mind moving forward when these episodes do air. It could take us in one of two directions just in terms of what is being shown in these scenes. Now of course no one presently has been announced as being cast as Elias, but that doesn't mean that someone hasn't been. It just perhaps means that they have not been announced yet. Although we do know that some characters are being cut on the show. I don't actually want to think about Elias being one of those characters that is cut, so I'm gonna forget about that. Now, while writing this script, I wanted to briefly go over the scenes in the book where Perrin and Egwene meet up before encountering Elias and the wolves, just to see if there was any descriptions that matched what was being shown in these set photos. And there doesn't seem to be much of a resemblance that is going on here. I think there's a certain level of artistic license to be had in certain cases, such as this one, where you have to add to the scene in the books when doing an adaptation, as there just isn't that, level of source material from the writing to fall back on. And so it leaves you open with a sense of creativity in terms of what you're choosing to be your location and, just the general terrain from which you're going to be filming from. Whereas that's in such a stark contrast to scenes that are taking place within the major cities or events within the books. The writing is a lot more detailed and there's a lot more to go off of than in this particular case. Moving away from the props, let's look at a few of the other photos and see what we can deduct from them. Let's start with this photo right here. So what I want to focus on is the huge piece of equipment in the middle of it, which is no doubt housing some form of lighting equipment. Now, what I'm guessing could be underneath there when shooting commenced would have been what is known as a HMI light. Now, these are extremely expensive and can cost up to $32,000. So this is no cheap piece of equipment that they're using to film the show. So that gives you a sense of how much money is being used to bring the show to life. Up next, I briefly wanted to touch upon something that I've noticed within another one of the photos, and that is these loose bricks which can be seen laying around the photo. Now, these aren't part of the natural environment, but in fact have been created specifically in mind with the shooting of the scenes here. And if you look a little bit closer, you will notice that there is what appears to be a sprinkling of artificial snow on all these bricks, which further give evidence to the fact that it is Egwene and Perrin scenes which have been filmed here. Especially when you consider the fact that if you turn to page 336 of the Eye of the World, you will see a brief mentioning of snow. And I just thought that would be an interesting piece of info that you may have missed. And that is the end of today's video. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and if you have, hit the like button down below as it really helps the channel and in particular every video reach a larger audience with the help of the YouTube algorithm, and it just also lets me know you're enjoying the content that I'm producing. Okay, once again, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.